What is going on, Gridiron fans? We are back with another mock draft madness. Okay, if you haven't been here before, please click that subscribe button. Also, click that little bell notification so you're notified of future videos. I've been doing some mock draft work. I also want to put out some top 10 lists for positional players going forward now that a lot of the pro days are starting to, at least get done. So, with all that being said, let's get started. Also, if you enjoyed this video at some point, please click that thumbs up. Okay, so, we all know Trevor Lawrence going number 1. There's really no doubt about it at this point. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence. But now we have the Jets on the clock. I think it is 100% clear that the Jets are not moving out of this spot. And if they do, I will be damn surprised. It is going to have to take a haul of picks, and maybe even a player or two to get them off of this pick now that they saw Zach Wilson throw at his pro day. Oh my gosh. He showed out. Big time. So, Zach Wilson to the Jets. Now, over the weekend, during BYU's pro day, aka Zach Wilson's pro day, the San Francisco 49ers announced a trade with the Dolphins to move up. And then the Dolphins took that 12th overall pick and traded it to the Eagles to move back up to 6. And San Francisco gave the Dolphins like a 3rd round pick and 2 future firsts, 2022 and a 2023. And then they took the 2022 and gave it to the Eagles so they can move back up to 6. Brian Flores and the Dolphins are doing an amazing job moving throughout the draft, gaining draft picks. Just over the last 2 years, trading away players and gaining draft picks, he's been doing an amazing job. An amazing job down there in Miami. Hats off to them because they're working it perfectly. Usually guys leave Belichick's system. They can't duplicate what he can. Brian Flores is. He's making it happen. Alright. Anyway, the reason I think the Niners moved up is because they had already seen Trey Lance's pro day. Whose pro day hadn't they seen yet? Well, that's Justin Fields. So, the reason I think they're moving up is to take Trey Lance. They already saw him. They already know what they're getting. They already know that the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson and the Jags are going to take Trevor Lawrence, or vice versa. If you want to make that argument, maybe Zach Wilson goes to the Jags. Who knows? Who cares? I'm not making that argument right now. All I know is those 2 players will not be there at number 3. No matter who's taking them. Somebody trades up for that spot, whatever. Those 2 players will not be at number 3. Who will? Trey Lance. That's who I think the Niners moved up for. Okay, so now we have the Falcons on the clock. And I don't think the Falcons are going to take a quarterback at this spot. I really don't. I think they're going to take Penei Sewell. They need a little help on that offensive line. Whoever that quarterback's going to be in the future, it's not going to be Matt Ryan, obviously, because he's moving, he's getting older. They're going to be moving on from him here in the near future, probably in the next year or 2. Does it make sense to get your quarterback right now? Yes. But do they want Justin Fields? Probably not. Probably not. If one of these other 3 quarterbacks happen to fall in your lap, absolutely you're taking them. But, if you can get a premier tackle right now who's going to start on your offensive line no matter what, somewhere, take him now. Bolster your offensive line. Okay, so now things are getting interesting. I did not take Penei Sewell on purpose so I can do this next thing. I was planning on doing it anyway because the Bengals picked up Riley Reef. So now they could probably move Jonah Williams to right tackle. The Bengals still need, probably a guard or a center, but they can get those later in this draft. They don't have to reach. They don't have to take somebody right here on that offensive line. So what do I think they're going to do is I think they're going to get a weapon for Joe Burrow and take Kyle Pitts. Yeah. Okay. So, I think the Dolphins, like I was saying, the Dolphins have done a great job maneuvering throughout the draft, moving up, moving down, gaining picks, gaining players. Everything that they've done the last 2 years has been a great job. So, I think they're going to take Jamar Chase. I think they're just going to continue to add weapons on that team. And they're going to go from there. I think they moved down to gain some picks. And they moved up because they didn't want to fall too far. They didn't want to fall down to 12. Alright. So now we have the Lions on the board. Lions, I think they almost have to go wide receiver. They've lost too much at the wide receiver position. And there are two good receivers sitting here. Jaylen Waddle, Devonta Smith. So I think they take Jaylen Waddle. Even though Devonta Smith won the Heisman this year, everybody's down on him a little bit because of his size. They don't think he can play a 16-game season and sustain the level of play that he did in college. So that's kind of the knock on him right now. Jaylen Waddle and Jamar Chase are a little bigger, a little more sturdy. Even though Jaylen Waddle is coming off that ankle injury. That's just the knock right now. Alright, so we have the Panthers on the board. Now the Panthers have a decision to make. Their options are quarterback. But which quarterback? Okay? I'm not super excited about this pick, but I do think the Panthers will end up making this pick. So what I'm going to do is I think they'll take Justin Fields. I really do. I think he fits their system a little better than Mac Jones would. Although I think Mac Jones would do just fine in that system. I think for them, they probably feel that Justin Fields would be a little better off. He can sit behind Teddy Bridgewater for a year. Maybe he's a starter by the end of the year. Whatever. They can develop him. He doesn't have to start right away. Okay, now every time we do these mock drafts, it says the Broncos need a quarterback. I just don't feel that way. I think Drew Lock is a good quarterback. I think he's had a crappy offensive line. I just don't. I'm not 100% sold. So instead of saying the Broncos need a new quarterback, I'm gonna say. It could take Rashawn Slater here, but wait a minute, the phone's ringing. We got a trade. So the Bears did not want to miss out on getting Mac Jones. They jump ahead of teams like the Patriots, the Vikings, the Eagles, who all might take quarterbacks, maybe. Even the Cowboys might take a quarterback to back up Dak, but they're not doing it in the first round if they're looking for Dak's backup. Maybe his replacement, but not his backup. Alright. They also want to be ahead of teams like Washington, who's looking for a quarterback. The teens and tens of this draft are all possible landing spots for a quarterback. And the Bears did not want to take that chance. They traded their 20th overall pick, a 3rd and a 5th this year, and a 2nd in 2022 to move up to number 9 to take Mac Jones. Mac Jones to the Bears at number 9. Broncos trade down, pick up some picks. They weren't in love with what was there. They don't need corner as much. Tackles are still going to be available where they're picking. You know, it was a good move for them. Alright, so we have the Cowboys on the clock. Cowboys still can't really afford to pass up on a secondary player in this draft. They could use some offensive line, but you're not going to find a Patrick Surtain in the 2nd round. He just looked good. Patrick Surtain solidified himself as the first corner off the board in this year's draft. Alright, let's keep moving. We have the Giants on the board. And, man, the Giants have so many options here. They pick up Galladay. I don't think they're going wide receiver now. They could go one of these tackles just to beef up that offensive line even more. But even that's kind of not a necessity. So, what I think they're going to do... I think they're going to take Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons had a great pro day over the weekend. There's a number of places you could put him. Is he an edge? Is he going to be an inside linebacker? It doesn't matter. The dude ran a 4.39. A 4.39. Just put him on the field. He can tackle. He's fast. It doesn't matter. Get him on the field. Let him make plays. This guy, he's a little raw, you know, but he's a good pure tackler. He's good at blitzing. If you put him on the outside, beef him up a little bit, teach him how to, you know, use his hands a little bit better, it's going to be, no matter what, this guy's going to be an amazing defensive player. I think the Giants have already worked on their offense this offseason. So I think grabbing a guy like Micah Parsons early on in this draft just says to the rest of that division that, hey, we're going to play defense this year. You know, they had a top 10, top 12 defense last year. And then they go out and they get good players in the draft this year, develop them, and I think they're going to be dominant on defense again. Okay, so now we got the Eagles on the board. The Eagles... they're going Devonta Smith. They're happy he fell here. Now they have a 2nd round pick for next year, or 1st round pick for next year, because they traded down. Devonta Smith falls into their lap. I think they're happy to take him. All right, so we got the Chargers on the board. Chargers have to go offensive line. It's got to be Slater, Darisaw, Tucker. One of these guys, Jenkins, has to be one of these guys. They got to continue to work on that line. They needed help on their offensive line before free agency, and it only got worse because they lost players. They have to go offensive line, probably heavy in these first 2 rounds, just because they need so much help. Probably one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. I'm not saying they have the worst offensive line, but like worst off as in depth. They lack tremendous depth. They aren't even... I think they only have 3 players. Alright, so now we got Vikings on the board. Vikings, man. Vikings can go a number of different ways too. But you know what I've been thinking? Something I've been salivating over? What if the Vikings take Kwity Paye and pair him up with Danielle Hunter? You have Dalvin Tomlinson, They just signed Dalvin Tomlinson. Danielle Hunter, Kwity Paye. That D-line could be sick. Okay? Talking about that defense getting back to a top 10, top 15 defense. They had some young growing pains at corner last year. You know, got those guys coming back. They reportedly signed Trey Waynes to play nickel. You know, all they need now is pick up one of these safeties or develop one of these safeties from the draft, whatever, and that defense could return to its old form under Mike Zimmer. All right. So now we have the Patriots on the board. Patriots are another team. They have a bunch of players coming back who opted out last year. Unfortunately for them, no quarterbacks left. Some moves were made. Bears made a move, came up and got Mac Jones. They didn't want to miss out. So, I think, actually, yeah. I think they'll take Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman to the Patriots. All right. So now we have, okay, so Caleb Farley had a back surgery, and he's also kind of had a injury-riddled career in college. So not a lot, like, he's sliding now. He probably could have been, from a talent standpoint, Caleb Farley could be the first corner off the board in this draft, but because of his injury concerns, can he stay healthy? Plus, he's about to have surgery, or he just did. I don't know the whole details on that, but I know he did or is having a back surgery, and it's causing some teams to concern. Therefore, he is sliding. Might even slide out of the first round. That's how serious it is. Some team may pick him up in the second round, and he may never have an injury his entire career that sidelines him, and that team would have gotten a steal of a player because his talent level is up there, but his injury history is way down, and it's causing him to slide. All right, so I said all that because J.C. Horn is going to go ahead of him. Okay, so now Las Vegas Raiders. Now the Raiders have done a lot of things to their offensive line, but everybody's like, "Oh, the Raiders are blowing up their offensive line. That was their best strength. What are they doing? They're nuts." No, they're not. They cleared up $35 million by getting rid of 3 players, which in turn has forced them to get an entire team. Okay? You can't have $35 million tied up in your offensive line, another 21 tied up in your quarterback, and have a team. That's almost $60 million tied up in just 4 players. That is crippling. Now, if that's spread out between the offense and the defense, you know, maybe you have $30 million on the defense and $30 million on maybe your left tackle's getting paid big money and your quarterback, you know, or a wide receiver in your quarterback. You got to spread that money around. You can't have $60 million just on your offense and then have a defense that's near the bottom. You just can't do it anymore. So they had to blow it up. I don't think they wanted to get rid of Rodney Hudson. I think they were willing to get rid of Trent Brown and Gabe Jackson, clear up 25, keep Rodney Hudson, but something happened there where Rodney Hudson was unhappy and demanded a trade. Actually demanded a release, but they ended up trading him because they were not getting rid of arguably the best center in the league to just get nothing back. So they ended up trading all 3 guys, They got some picks. You can make the argument that they got nothing for them, but in turn they got something for them. And they cleared up $35 million on their cap. That's the big point here, is they cleared up $35 million. Did it hurt their offensive line? Yeah, probably a little bit. But I think they trust in Tom Cable. They're gonna get that offensive line back and running. Now, with that being said, they could take Christian Darrisaw, they could take Tevin Jenkins, and just turn around and boom, fixed it just like that. They're bringing back Richie Incognito, Denzel Good. They still have Colton Miller at left tackle. They're fine. They have a backup guy, Andre James, who has been Rodney Hudson's backup for the last couple years now. They really like him. Really, the Raiders just need a right tackle now at this point, and a little bit of depth. So maybe they draft 2 offensive line players in this draft, but a guy by the name of Trayvon Moehrig is here, and they can't pass him up either because they need a free safety. Trayvon Moehrig is the best one here. Offensive line is pretty deep in this draft, so they don't have to have a guy right now. They could double down in the second and third rounds, come away with 2 good offensive linemen, and solidify this draft even further. So now we have the Dolphins back on the board. Says they need edge. If they needed edge, they would not have gotten rid of Kyle Van Noy, so I don't think that they believe that they need edge as bad as they need offensive weapons. So I think they take Najee Harris. Alright. So now we have Washington football team on the board. They, on the other hand, do need offensive line. I think they go best player on the board. That's Christian Darrisaw. All right, so now we have the Broncos here. They passed on Mac Jones, traded down. Bears moved up, took Mac Jones. I think if they pass on Mac Jones, it's because they believe in Drew Lock, or they're only going to take. I think the Broncos are only going to take a quarterback if one of those big 4 or even 3 falls to them. I don't think it's very high on their priority list. I just don't. One thing that should be, though, is offensive line. Fix that offensive line, and Drew Lock will inherently be better for it. Alright. So now we have the Colts on the board. I think the Colts go Eric Stokes. Alright. Tennessee Titans on the board. Could go a number of different ways here. Ultimately, I think they could take Greg Newsome. Yeah. Greg Newsome. Alright. So now I think the Jets and Robert Saleh are salivating over Jason Oweh's 4.36 that he ran in the 40-yard dash at, I'll show you, 6'5", 257 pounds. And this guy ran a 4.36. That's the fastest time of any man his size ever. Physical freak. Is he raw? Yes. You can make the argument that Jalen Phillips or Azeez Ojulari are more polished, but Phillips has got injury issues, and Azeez Ojulari is a 3-4 outside linebacker. Okay? He's undersized. So I think Robert Saleh take Jason Oweh and turn him into gold. Jason Oweh, I believe is how you say his name. Alright, so now, actually, the Steelers have lost quite a bit this offseason. They could use offensive line. Yes. They need a slot corner. Caleb Farley is not that. Plus, he might not be healthy enough for them right now. Yeah, they lost Mike Hilton, so they're not looking for an outside corner. They're looking for a slot corner, a nickel man. So I think Travis Etienne is the pick here, just because, best value. I would take Travis Etienne over Elijah Vera-Tucker right now. Like I've said already, this is a deep draft in offensive line. So, if you go out and you get a premier player in the first round and then just double down in the next 2 rounds on your offensive line, if that's your issue, if that's your need, do that. But, some of these other positions are not as deep. Running back is one of them. There's like 5, and then there's a big drop-off. You're still going to be able to find guys, but not dynamic guys later on in the draft. Just role players or depth pieces. That's it at running back. Where offensive line is very deep this year. You might even be able to find starters in the 3rd and 4th round still. Alright, so now we have the Jags on the clock. And the Jags, I know the Jags probably should take offensive line, but I know Urban Meyer likes his gadget guys. And that's exactly what Kadarius Toney is. He is a straight-up gadget guy. You can give him end-arounds, screens. You could do a lot with you. You could direct snap to him. Former quarterback, so he's used to taking snaps. Kadarius Toney can do a lot with him. Urban Meyer will salivate over this guy. Alright. So now we're going... We have the Browns. Cleveland Browns on the clock. And I think they take Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips. Alright. So now we have the Ravens on the clock. Edge, wide receiver. I think Terrace Marshall is good enough. It's a good enough pick for them. Get him in the first round. Hollywood Brown can't continue to be your best wide receiver. They lost Willie Snead, so it's even more important that they get a wide receiver now. Dare I say that the Saints are in a good enough position to where I think they could take a chance on Caleb Farley. Get a guy opposite Marshawn Lattimore. If Caleb Farley ends up being healthy and having a good career, Sean Payton looks like a genius for just scooping him up. Best player available. If you just ignore the injury history just for a minute. There's been players who've been just totally beat up in college, and they'll go to the NFL and they're fine. They're totally fine. So I think he falls to the late round. He is a top 10 talent. He's sitting here at 28. You need a corner. Maybe he's willing to take the risk. Saints have everything else. They could use a corner. If he ends up being healthy and he works out, he's going to be great. Alright. So now we have the Packers on the board. Corners, or wide receivers, come off the board recently. Elijah Moore, not in love with him. I think he's a later round guy. Rondell Moore. Amari Rogers. Yeah, a lot of these guys are just little gadget slot guys. No. No, they're not. I think they take Elijah Vera Tucker. They could use some help on that offensive line. Elijah Vera Tucker can play guard or tackle. Go out and you get a guy that's versatile. Offensive line just got some help. Alright. So now we have the Buffalo Bills on the clock. Bills don't exactly need linebacker anymore. Milano re-signed or extended. However, whatever they did with him there. Anyway, he's back. They don't need a linebacker now. But they could take a guy like I think to take Azeez Ojulari. Nope, didn't mean to do that. Okay, so now the Chiefs on the board. The Chiefs got to go after offensive line. I think wide receiver is a luxury. I think linebacker's even kind of a luxury. But Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is sitting here. So is Nick Bolton and Zaven Collins. I don't think you can pass them up. I really don't. No, I don't think you can. Okay, so the Bucks are about to pick. Okay, so we have the Bucks on the board, and I think the Bucks are gonna go. I mean, whom else could they go but Christian Barmore? Alright, so now we're in the second round. The Jags are on the board. And I think I hear the phone. I hear the phone ringing. Someone is calling. Let's find out who it is. So the Panthers made a call to the Jaguars to trade up to grab Zaven Collins. Playmaker on defense. They went out and they got a bunch of players on defense last year. They move up in this draft. They only gave up a 4th round pick. So they traded their 2nd round pick, which is 39 overall, and a 4th to move up to the 1st pick in the 2nd round to take Zaven Collins because he was still sitting there. They wanted to get ahead of the Jets. The Jets most likely would have taken him just because he's a good, solid defensive player. So they wanted to make sure they got him. He wasn't going to fall any farther. He wasn't going to make it through some of these other teams, the Falcons, the Dolphins. None of these teams. He would have made it through none of these other teams. He would have been off the board. Even if somebody else would have traded up to get him to one of these other teams. Zaven Collins would have came up this board. I really like Zaven Collins. I think he's going to be a good force to be reckoned with in this league for years to come. Alright. So now we have the Jets on the clock. And I think the Jets go Aaron Robinson. Corner out of UFC. Or UCF. Sorry. Alright. Alright, so we have the Falcons on the board. And see, here's what I mean. You move up to get a guy like Zaven Collins because your division rival needed and wanted a linebacker. Falcons take Nick Bolton. I think the homegrown guy, the Miami guy, Gregory Rousseau, stays in Miami. Now some of these linebackers have moved on or moved off the board. I think they take Gregory Rousseau at number 4. Eagles on the board. Now, Eagles, I think they go Pat Freiermuth. Get that tight end of the future. Alright, so now we talked about the Bengals. They took Kyle Pitts in the first round. They got a weapon for Joe Burrow. You know, I think their wide receiving core is pretty good, even though they lost A.J. Green. I still think it's solid. They could probably pick up a guy in the 3rd or 4th round. Wide receiver is kind of deep in this draft. So now what they need to address is that O-line. And I think they take a guy that's versatile. They could take Creed Humphrey, can play center or guard. So can Landon Dickerson. He can play center or guard. So, but I think Creed Humphrey he's done it longer. Landon Dickerson has only played center this year. Creed Humphrey has done it throughout his career in college. So I think they take Creed Humphrey. They solidify that line even more. Okay, so now the Jags are sitting here and, you know, they pick in another 6 picks. You know, so I think they're sitting in a good spot. Trading down was definitely worth it. They pick up a 4th round pick in this draft where they can grab another solid player. 4th round pick is pretty good. And I think while they're sitting here, they could take Samuel Cosmi. Yeah. We'll take Samuel Cosmi. Alright. So I think the Broncos do need to address linebacker. And Baron Browning is a pretty good prospect. He's a good pure tackler. Can play inside, outside, in a 4-3 defense. I think he's a good, solid pick. All right. So now we have the Lions on the board. Lions go. Man, what are the Lions gonna do? I think the Lions could take Liam Eckenberg. You know, just keep building that offensive line for whomever the quarterback is over the next couple of years. Even if it's not Goff next year or the year after. Whatever quarterback it is, he's going to need protection. Alright, so the Giants went linebacker. They went Micah Parsons in the first round. And I think there's a good player sitting right here. They could even go Kelvin Joseph. I really like this guy. He's got good size and ability. 6'1". Yeah. Ugh. I think the Giants' offense is set. I think they have good weapons. They have Saquon coming back. They picked up Galladay. You know, maybe tight end's a concern. They do have Kyle Rudolph. You know, and they still have, that other guy. I can't think of his name right now. Doesn't matter. They have Kyle Rudolph. He's a good pass-catching tight end. Plus, there isn't a tight end, really. I mean, Brevin Jordan's down here a little bit, but... Alright. Regardless, I think they could... Perkins is more of a... I think they take Joseph Asai. He is an outside... 3-4 outside linebacker. He'll fit in perfect there. They get Micah Parsons and Joseph Asai. That defense is just going to be lights out. lights out next year. They got Xavier McKinney and Peppers on the back end. You know, yeah, they do need to grab a corner here eventually to help them out. They could still pick up a guy like Sherman on a one-year deal or something. But anyway, like, I think the Giants have done themselves some justice in these first 2 picks. All right, so we have the Niners on the board. Niners, man, they signed Trent Williams to a big deal. Now they need to go out. Actually, I think they're going to take Kelvin Joseph. They need to replenish some of that secondary that they've let walk this year. They take their quarterback of the future. Maybe they trade Garoppolo now. Whatever they want to do. I think the Cowboys, they could go... Yeah, they're going to have to... No. I think the Cowboys go Dylan Raduns. They're going to have to. As much as they need defensive help, they need offensive line help as well. Alright. So now we have the Jags on the clock again. And Brevin Jordan's here. That's something they could use. But Levi Onwuzurike is right here as well. They could use defensive line help. Alright. So now we have the Patriots on the board. Patriots still kind of looking for that quarterback of the future. You know what? I think they'll take Jabril Cox. This guy is versatile. Jabril Cox. Alright. So we have the Chargers on the board. I think they're going to take Elijah Moore. Best player available at this point. Raiders. Jalen Mayfield is a right tackle. Alex Leatherwood's probably the best option right here for the Raiders. He can play left or right tackle. When Tua was the quarterback, he played right tackle and protected his blind side. When Mac Jones was the quarterback this year, he played left tackle and protected his blind side. So Alex Leatherwood can play left or right tackle. And what do the Raiders need right now? They need a right tackle. So Alex Leatherwood is the dude. Alright. Now, the Cardinals have let Kenyon Drake walk. They need a running back. Javonte Williams, North Carolina. Alright, we have the Dolphins on the board again. Jeez. I think they go Wyatt Davis. Gotta go best player available, right? Linebacker's really not blowing my hair back. Alright. Just trying to keep this draft moving here. It's getting later in the time here. I just want to keep moving. Alright. Washington football team on the clock. I think they take Asante Samuel Jr. So the Bears traded up. They got Mac Jones. I think they go out and they get Jalen Mayfield to protect him. Got to start bolstering that offensive line because that offensive line is not that great. So now we have the Titans on the board. Take Rondale Moore. The Colts. I think the Colts could take Davion Nixon, put him next to DeForest Buckner. Wow. The Steelers have their guy right here. Slot corner, Elijah Molden. So Seahawks on the clock for the first time in this draft and this mock draft. I think they take Ronnie Perkins. Got to get edge. Alright, so LA brings in Matthew Stafford. They got to protect his ass. Landon Dickerson is the best player available, and he also fits a need. Alright, so we have the Ravens on the clock. Ravens could go Javon Holland. I like it. Safety. We have the Browns on the clock. They got edge earlier. Yes. They took Jalen Phillips. That's right. So this time around, I actually like this pick for them. I think they take Amari Rodgers. Take Amari Rodgers. Alright. Now the Saints took a chance on Caleb Farley. He fell all the way to 28. They took him. But a guy I like is Nico Collins. This guy could be a monster in this offense. That Saints offense. Alright, so we have the Buffalo Bills on the clock. The Bills, I think they take Dwayne Eskenridge. This guy's just kind of like a do-it-all guy. He's not that big, but this guy will get open in the slot for them. I think he could be a force to be reckoned with. I think they go Brady Christensen. Why don't they just build up that line? Okay, so now the Chiefs are in the same position. I think they're just going to go offensive line again and take James Hudson. The Buccaneers in the final pick in this mock draft. It's going to be Joe Tryon. Okay, so what did you think of this mock draft? Get at me in the comments below. If you haven't already, or at this point, please click that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Click that little bell to be notified of future videos that I upload. Did you enjoy this video? Let me know down below. Did you like my picks? Did you not? I know this video was a little lengthy, but there was a lot to talk about. This was a 2-round mock. There were trades. I made some trades. So, what did you think, Gridiron fans? I am the Gridiron Guy, and I am out.